is Dr. Emily Levy. I am the founder and director of EBL Coaching and the author of the Strategies for Study Success series, a workbook series that teaches students strategies for test-taking, note-taking, organization, reading comprehension, and writing. In this video, I will teach you how to implement different workbooks to help students build skills in reading, writing, reading comprehension, and study skills. We're going to start with highlighting book 4. Highlighting 4 is part of the Strategies for Study Success series, which is a workbook series that teaches students techniques for developing test-taking, note-taking, organization, reading comprehension, and writing. Highlighting book 4 follows highlighting books 1, 2, and 3. In this program, we teach students how to build active reading and reading comprehension skills. We start by teaching them that when we read, there are 3 elements that we look for: the topic, main idea, and important details. The topic is 1, 2, or 3 words, which describes what the passage is about. The main idea is what the author is saying about the topic, and the important details are important bits of information describing the main idea. In highlighting book 1, we focus on teaching students how to pull out these 3 elements from different pictures. So highlighting book 1 is entirely at the pictorial level, which helps students solidify these concepts of how to pull out those key elements. In highlighting book 2, we start out with a review of the pictorial level, where the students complete multiple choice questions, identifying the topic, main idea, and important details. Then they come up with their own topic, main idea, and important details from a series of pictures. And then we move into passages with basic levels of text. In highlighting book 3, we move into multi-paragraph passages, where the student reads each passage, then goes back and highlights the topic, main idea, and important details, and also learns how to write 1 to 2 line summaries based on the information that they read. Now, in highlighting book 4, we move into more advanced passages with more densely packed text, and we also introduce a very important test-taking strategy, which is how to identify explicit and implicit questions when answering different types of questions. Let's take a look inside the book. If we turn to page 2, we see this is where the book introduces the 3 elements we should look for when we read. The first element we should look for is the topic, which is 1, 2, or 3 words describing what the passage is about. Some examples of a topic include sleep, hot dog toppings, and World War II. Whenever we identify a topic, we should always highlight it in blue. The second element that we look for is the main idea, which is what the author is saying about the topic. Let's say, for instance, the topic is music. Main idea might be there are many different types of music. Or let's say the topic is the park. The main idea might be there are several sports you can play at the park. We always highlight the main idea in green. The third element that we look for are the important details, which we highlight in yellow. Important details are significant bits of information describing the main idea. There are 2 things to keep in mind when we highlight the important details. The first is that we want to try to only highlight what's very important and not every detail on the page. And the other piece is just to highlight words and phrases and not full sentences whenever possible. In highlighting 4, we also introduce a unique test-taking strategy. That is, when students answer questions about a passage, there are 2 kinds of questions that they'll come across. The first type of question is an explicit question, which the student should mark with an E. An explicit question is a question whose answer comes straight from the passage, like a fact or a statistic. The second type of question is an implicit question, which the student should mark with an I. An implicit question is more of an inference, where the student has to draw his or her own conclusion based on the information that was read from the passage. Let's take a look at a sample passage together. If we turn to exercise 1 on page 4, we'll notice that the passage here is longer than the passages in the previous highlighting books. The students should start by reading the passage, then going back and highlighting the topic in blue, main idea in green, and important details in yellow. It is very important that he or she reads the passage first before doing any highlighting so that there is a dual level of processing. Once the student has read the passage and gone back and highlighted the topic in blue, main idea in green, and important details in yellow, he or she should then answer the 4 multiple choice questions and 1 open-ended question where the student has to write in his or her own response in full sentences at the bottom of the page. When the student answers these questions, which we can see on page 5, the student should also indicate in the line next to each question whether the question is implicit, which the student would mark with an I, or explicit, which the student would mark with an E. I'm going to read one passage out loud and give you a sample of some key elements that the student might highlight. Exercise 1 reads as follows. Alcatraz, often referred to as the Rock, is an island located off the coast of San Francisco that is most famous for its federal maximum security prison. It also served as a lighthouse, a military fortification, and a military prison during the time of the American Civil War. Today, Alcatraz is a historic site operated by the National Park Service. It is open to visitors who may explore its historic sites and enjoy a wonderful view of the California coastline. There are several well-known criminals, such as Al Capone and George Machine Gun Kelly, who were jailed at the Alcatraz Penitentiary. During its 29 years in operation, prison officials claimed that nobody ever successfully escaped. However, notable escape attempts were documented. According to records, 36 prisoners were involved in 14 escape attempts, but none were successful. 23 men were caught, 6 were shot and killed during their attempted escapes, and 3 are thought to have been lost at sea. The most violent escape attempt occurred between May 2nd and May 4th, 1946, when several inmates devised an elaborate plan of escape that has been named the Battle of Alcatraz. During this escape attempt, 11 guards were wounded and 1 was killed. Another noteworthy escape occurred on June 2, 1962, when 3 inmates successfully chiseled through a concrete wall around a prison cell air vent to eventually form a path of escape. The convicts attempted to float to the California mainland on an inflatable raft made out of raincoats, leaving behind dummies with human hair stolen from the prison barber shop in their cells. Although they were not caught, the prison report states that the inmates drowned in the San Francisco Bay while attempting to reach the California coast. Now that we finished step 1, which is reading the passage, it's time to go back and highlight the topic in blue, main idea in green, and important details in yellow. In this case, we can highlight Alcatraz in blue, which is our topic. Next, we'll highlight the main idea in green, which is an island located off the coast of San Francisco. Then we go through and highlight the important details in yellow. Note that we only highlight words and phrases in yellow, and that there is no exact right or wrong answer here. The important details to be highlighted are subjective. In this case, we might highlight in yellow, famous federal maximum security prison, lighthouse, military fortification, military prison. Then in the second paragraph, well-known criminals, Al Capone, George Machine Gun Kelly, jailed at the Alcatraz Penitentiary, notable escape attempts, 36 prisoners, 14 escape attempts, none were successful, 23 men were caught, 6 were shot and killed. Now let's move into the third paragraph. Violent escape attempt, Battle of Alcatraz, 11 guards were wounded and 1 was killed. June 2nd, 1962, 3 inmates, chiseled, concrete wall, float, inflatable raft, not caught, drowned in the San Francisco Bay. Now that we've done our reading and we've done our highlighting, it's time to answer 4 multiple choice questions and 1 open-ended question about this passage. Let's take a look at question number 1. Question 1 reads, what is Alcatraz the most well known for? A federal maximum security prison, B, a military prison during the Civil War. C, it's seabirds. Or D, housing Al Capone. In this case, we know that the question is explicit because we're able to find the answer straight from the passage. Therefore, the student would write the letter E next to this question for explicit and also circle the correct answer choice, which in this case is A. Question number 2 reads, why was it difficult to escape from the federal prison on Alcatraz? A, the island and prison were well guarded. B, it was located on an island. C, the inmates were not intelligent enough to plan escapes. Or D, A and B. In this case, the student has to think about the answer to the question and make an inference in order to come up with the correct answer. Therefore, this question is an implicit question. The student would mark this question with the letter I and would also circle D as the correct answer. Question 3 reads, what is thought to have happened to the 3 prisoners who escaped from Alcatraz on June 2, 1962? A, they reached San Francisco and began new lives as free men. B, they drowned in the San Francisco Bay. C, they were shot and killed by prison guards. Or D, none of the above. In this question, again, the student is able to find the answer straight from the passage. Therefore, the answer is explicit. We would mark this question with an E, and the student would circle B as the correct answer. Question 4 reads, why do people visit Alcatraz today? A, to take pictures of Al Capone's cell. B, to go bird watching. C, to swim off the island's shores. Or D, to visit a historic site. In this case, the student has to think about the answer to the question and make an inference. Therefore, this is an implicit question. The student should mark this question with an I and circle D as the correct choice. Finally, we have our open-ended question. Question 5 reads, why is Alcatraz considered to be a historic site? The student has to make an inference in order to come up with this answer. So in this case, the student would put an I next to this question. There's no exact right or wrong answer here, but one sample answer might be, it was well known for its federal maximum security prison and its lighthouse, military fortification, and military prison. If we look through the book, there are several passages very similar to the one we just did. If we take a look at page 6, which is exercise 2, we'll see here that the student will complete the exercise in the exact same way. First, the student should read the passage, then go back and highlight the topic in blue, main idea in green, and important details in yellow. Finally, the student should answer 4 multiple choice questions and 1 open-ended question in full sentences, while also marking I for implicit questions and E for explicit questions. Each exercise in this book is structured the same way. As students progress through the book, the passages become longer with more densely packed text. The more students practice this strategy, the easier it will become for them, and the more their active reading and reading comprehension skills will improve.